early industries. In widely separated areas, with the sheltering McPherson Range of mountains for a background grazing, was I fancy the first industry in what are now the Logan and Albert electorates. Concomitantly, though entirely unrelated, timber getting was carried on in the scrubs of the rivers and mountain ranges, where there were enormous quantities of valuable woods, such as red cedar, pine, beech, etc. The then unappreciated, beautifully grained and colored tree, the tulip, was completely ignored and burnt with useless other trees. Now this wood is a rarity, and commands very high prices for fancy work. All timber when felled was laboriously hauled by bullock teams into ravines or creeks, to there await the annual floods, when it was negotiated to the tidal river heads, there assembled into rafts, often half a mile in length, and in this form rafted to the mills in Brisbane. Not till the floods had receded, and the tides become normal, did the rafters start on their way, advantage being taken of the ebb tide currents to drift down the rivers till the opposing flood set in, when the timber was anchored or tied up to the bank till next ebb. From the river's mouths, the rafts were skillfully navigated across the bay to the mouth of the Brisbane River, where flood tides carried them to their mill destination. Before the birth of Southport, I saw the beaches of Stradbroke and the mainland strewn with escapees from these rafts. I was told that it was quite common to raft timber from the Tweed River scrubs to Brisbane out to sea over the dangerous Tweed Bar, then to the bar at Nerang Heads. The ocean current, for a few miles out to sea from the beach, between Cape Byron and Point Lookout, is undeviatingly northward in direction. This fact was taken advantage of by the timber getters to get their cuttings to the Brisbane markets more economically than to Sydney, which necessitated carriage by sailing vessels. These raft navigators, with a daring commensurate with that of our hardy fishermen of the English North Sea and Scottish waters, were in grave danger of losing their lives every time they set out on this perilous adventure. But they were a hardy lot in those rough days, and very skillful in their calling. Squatting and timber getting may be said to have been the first undertakings of the early times in the regions I write of. Agriculture followed in the shape of small farms, almost entirely on the rich scrub lands bordering the Logan, Albert, Coomera, and Nerang rivers, at first by English-speaking people. Small hamlets then began to spring up in various centers of agriculture. German colonists. Presently a wave of German immigrants came along in communities, generally speaking, in shipmate batches. They took up contiguous blocks of standing scrubland, and forthwith set about making the land produce the wherewithal for their domestic living, with a little surplus sufficient to meet the cost of indispensable farming implements. They were characteristically modest in their requirements, frugal in their living, and indefatigably industrious. Their womenfolk toiled in the field, just as did their men. Many of their original farms are still being profitably worked by the grandchildren of these first settlers. At about this time of colonial development, another industry had its beginnings, the wayside pub, dignified by the name hotel,